Greetings, my name is Donnie Decker and I want to show you the Outreach Aggregate report. It's easy to find. You just simply go to Reports, Outreach, and then Outreach Aggregate. Now, before we can do anything with it, we do need to turn it on. Now, if you're a super user, then you'll definitely have it because all super users get all the new features we push out. But if you're not in a super user group, then it has to be turned on for you if you're going to be using it. To do that, let's go to Settings and then Groups and Permissions. We'll edit the group we want to turn on. In this case, we'll do the admin group. And then we'll scroll down. It'll be near the bottom. It's called the Outreach Aggregate. So I'm just going to go up here and find it. And I probably missed it. Oh, here it is. Outreach Aggregate. I just mark it View. And then I can go ahead and save it down here at the bottom or just scroll all the way back to the top and submit that. Now that's going to save it, so now the admin team or the admin group will absolutely have this report and are capable of using it. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the report. To get there, we'll go to Reports, Outreach, and then Outreach Aggregate. Now, each and every one of these little selectors, and you have to set, you have to tell the report what it's going to do. But each one of these has a little help window here, a tooltip. And you can see what these are going to tell you. Feel free to look at yours and see what they all say. They're not real verbose, but they'll at least kind of give you a feeling for what that does. Now, the first one we're going to talk about is the select date field, where you actually set the from and to dates for your calendar or for the report that you're working on. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple cool new features because this is a new date picker we're using. First one is we have some hot links down here where you can just say, show me last month. Or you can say, show me this month, which sets this month. Calendar year. It sets the calendar year I happen to be in this case, January 1st, 2019 to the end of the month. So keep in mind, if you have future stuff entered, you don't want them included, you will need to set your beginning into period versus just taking the whole year. And then, of course, the fiscal year, as you can see, whatever your fiscal is set, mine is set to match calendar, so it doesn't really change in this case. But if you have yours set to a different date, let's say July 1st is your fiscal, 2019, it'll show July 1st, 2019 to, actually technically July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019. Now, when you're working with this, it's pretty simple. There's two calendars to make it easy, last month and this month. And I'm going to go ahead and reset this the way it looks. So last month and this month. Now, if I need to pick a date range, let's say I just want a week. Let's say I want the 3rd through the 9th. I just have to do that and select them and then hit OK. So I click on the 3, I click on the 9, and then I hit OK to register that date range. Now, let's say I want a single day. Let's say I just want to report on Saturday the 2nd. I can click on it once, which starts my to date. I click on it again. As you can see, this changes up here. And you can see I'm going to be reporting out on a single day, 3/2 and 3/2. And then I hit OK. It's important that you look at this date range, that it's correct for you. If it's not, it's super easy to fix and change. And there's also a quick option to clear this by simply clicking on this X. It clears out of the way. It tells you it is required, and you'll have to choose a date range. In this case, I'm just going to choose last month again. That's how easy setting your dates are in this report. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the tracking method. The tracking methods are the goods and services that your agency is currently providing. Now, this won't match yours likely, or it might. Maybe you just have food. Maybe you do food and clothing and some sort of holiday thing like they do here. In this case, I'm just going to choose food and clothing for the report. You can choose all of them. In fact, you have a check all option that allow you to work with them all. So if you want them all, but maybe let's say one, you could use the check all and uncheck the one that you don't want. You can also search. If you want to find something specific and there's a long list, it's going to put yours right on top and make it easy to find. As you can see, food is showing up in both because food is used in both of these. The next thing is the pivot on. The pivot on basically allows you to take the results and divide it into whatever field you're pivoting with. So an example would be if they're homeless or not. That way I would get my numbers that are homeless, and I would also get numbers that aren't homeless. If I do it by zip code, then I'd be breaking it up by zip codes. I get my numbers for each zip code that's currently registered for visits in this period. One of the most common ones likely will be like household total. That'll allow you to get all your numbers for household size of 1, all your numbers for all the visits that are household size of 2, and so on. A lot of different states require that, so this makes it very easy to get that kind of data with this report, pivoting on, in this case, household total. The sum count by. What this allows you to do is, if it's a yes, no, or a text field, or a select box, like in this case, is there a veteran in the household? What it's going to do, it's going to do two things. It's going to either sum, if it's a number field, like your age ranges, or it's going to count how many times something is presented. Like in this case, is there a veteran in the household? Yes, no. Well, then it's going to give me on a single line how many were yeses and how many were nos, so it gives you that valuable data. Same thing with language spoken. So if there's a value greater than 0 in this field, it's going to give you a column and tell you how many households are speaking that language. Spanish, English, whatever languages that you may be collecting. Now in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and sum up my age groupings, and then of course household total as well. The next thing is a report type. There's 4 types of reports in this report, and you can only run one at a time. So the first one is a new report. So what a new report is it looks at whatever time frame that you're reporting on, and you want to report out all the people that are attending the first time in that period, but you also have to know what that period is, because there's a big difference on your report month versus how you're actually going to determine new. So new is frequently done by, new ever to the pantry. Like if you've been using FoodBank Manager for 5 years and never been here and they finally show up, that's brand new for the first time ever. Let's say every year everyone is new again. We see that a lot. Let's say every fiscal someone is new again. That's also very common. And sometimes you even have new this month. So you can just choose new, but when you choose new report type, you have to tell it what new is. How are we going to calculate first time? And so basically these are their options. So if you're the type of agency that needs to know new this calendar year, or new this fiscal year, new this month, or new ever. So like we had spoke about earlier, frequently this fiscal is the most common, although we do see a lot of calendar year new. Now another report here is returning. Returning is basically new, it's just that it's not new. So if you're new, then you won't show up in a returning report in that period unless you had a not new visit also, like a returning visit. So if in the month you allow 2 times and you come the first time in that month, then obviously that's new. But the second time you come would be a not new report. If you've already been to this pantry, this calendar, fiscal, or whatever you have set for determining new, so you're not new at all this month and you come twice, then you will have 2 not new visits and 0 new visits since you're not new this period. Now the third report type is total. A total report, think of it like a duplicated report. It's the exact same thing. In fact, you could say total or you could say duplicated. What it's going to do is it's going to look at all your visits in that period, regardless of if it's first time, last time, second time, third time, doesn't matter. It's just going to add them all up and give you total numbers. You also have a unique report. This is also another term for that. Another term for unique would be unduplicated. So unduplicated is unique. Now don't confuse unique with new, because unique just means it's the first time you visited in a period, not that it's the first time within the period you need to determine first time by. Once again, that can be somewhat confusing, but it's important to understand that. So unique just means it's the first visit for everyone that attended that period, not their second and third added up, just a single instance regardless of how many times they came. But that is not a new report, so just be aware of that. Now in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and choose total. Now this section here, show results for. The show results for section is really important you grasp. What I mean by that is simple. There's two types. You can do a physical visit. Think of that as an attendance. You showed up that day. Or you can do a tracking method visit, which means if you received more than one good or service, let's say you received food and clothing, and you choose tracking method visit, it's going to go ahead and count both visits and double your numbers for that day if they received two services. Let's say you offered 5 services. Let's say, you did, service 1, service 2, service 3, service 4, and service 5, and you got all 5. Then if you do tracking method visit, it's going to take your numbers that you're outputting and multiply it by 5. So that may not be what you're looking for. And then again, it may be something you do want. So there is a place for it. Just be aware of the differences. And once again, I'll go over it. A physical visit just means you were there that day and we only take one instance of your numbers and report that out to you. So in that example of receiving 5 goods or services, if you receive 5, physical visit will only output your numbers one time, to where tracking method visit would output your numbers 5 times if you received all 5 visits. So it's a big difference in what you're looking at. Now, you do have an option of viewing presets, so you can save a report once you've built it, so you don't have to keep recreating the wheel. You would simply just view your presets. You would choose a report that you saved, and then it would load it all into here, and it would even run it for you. If you need to change your date, just remember your date won't save. So if you choose, let's say, January 1st to whatever, it's not going to save it. You'd have to set it. It will always default to the last month, is what you see here, which is what most people need 90% of the time. You also have a search. Search basically fires off the report and makes it, find the numbers that you're looking for. And then, of course, reset clears all the fields up in here so you can start the report all over again. So let's do this. Let me go ahead and hit search. So what the report's going to do, and I'm going to scroll this up to the output part of this form. So as you can see, we actually now present to you what it is you set in the report now. So we're seeing the date range, 3/1, which is basically the whole month of March. We're looking at food and clothing. We're pivoting on household total and report type. And remember, we chose the physical visit. And why that's important is if I receive food and clothing, I'm not doubling my numbers. As long as I receive one of these, I'll be included. If I receive both, I'm only one instance of my data will be represented here. Now, you have a couple options up top. I can save this as a preset, as you can see here, which allows you then to create a report and give it a name right here, and you save it. And that'll let you recall that very easily later. And you can also export it, which pushes the data into a spreadsheet, which I'll do that for you in a minute. But before I get started, I want to talk about the results a little bit here. Since I'm pivoting on household total, this household total group is what I need to be looking at. Now, all of these columns have these up and down arrows, as you can see. What these are for is it lets you sort these column headers. So I'm going to sort household total group. So I have 1 first, which is basically smallest to largest, or I can go largest to smallest. So I'm going to leave it at smallest to largest. So how you read this is, I have, in a household size of 1, I have 103 households that visited. These are the age groups that are in those households. I also have my 18 plus and my 65 plus age groups. So I know I had 73 household size of 1, 27 people that were in the 65 age group. And then, of course, I have 103 total households that served. Because it's a household size of 1, it makes sense at 103 household visits, total 103 people. Now, when we go to like household size of 2, I won't do them all, but I have 127 households that visited last month that are a household size of 2, which obviously would add up to 254 people total. And then here's my age breakdowns for the different groups. And as I scroll through, as you can see, we do have some fairly large families. We have 1 family of 14 and 1 family of 21. But we have 15 families of 10. So as you can see how these numbers play out. Now, it's nice to see your numbers here for whatever you're trying to do, but you also are going to need to export it to work with it in Excel. So you simply just hit export, which is going to give you a downloadable spreadsheet, which you can click on. Once you click on it, it'll open, and I'm going to pull it here so you can see it. And what I want to do is I want to make it a lot bigger so that we all can see it really, really well. All right, so the first thing we want to look at here is we want to look at we want to see what these headers are. This is new to our reporting when it comes to exporting your data. We don't generally or have in any other reports provided you the setting information. We also will provide you your headers and the data that we saw on that screen as well. So from here you can work with it any way you wish. If you don't need these columns, just simply highlight them and then you can just delete them. That way they're out of the way. And we also date your report, Outreach Aggregate report, and we put the day that you ran it to 2019 4/26. You can see way at the very top. All right, so that's basically the report in a nutshell. But let me just kind of show you one more example of the pivot on. So I'm going to clear that pivot on of household total. And what I'm going to say is I want my numbers broke up, by this yes/no field. I want to know how many household visits were veterans and how many household visits were not veterans. So I'll just go ahead and choose that in my pivot on, and then I go ahead and search. And this is going to update my form, as you can see what I'm pivoting on now. And my results are just like this. Is there a veteran in the household, which is that field I pivoted on. 165 total people with 39 households with these age breakdowns where yes, there's a veteran in the home. And then all the households without a veteran, as you can see, 641 household visits with a total of 2,622 people. There was not a veteran in the home. So this will just give you an idea of the power of this report and what you can do with it. Once again, all this kind of work can be done in Excel. It does take time using a lot of formulas and understanding what you're doing, but this hopefully will take a lot of that pain and pressure away, where you can just get a lot of reports run from this just directly. And just for grins, let's go ahead and just do a quick new report. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say new this calendar year. And what it means is that the people in March, if they've been here January, February, they're not going to show up as new in March because I'm doing this calendar. And I'm only looking at visits in March itself. If I have not come, or they have not come at all so far this year, and their first visit is in March, I will get results here. Otherwise, I won't. So I'm going to go ahead and hit search, and we're going to see what we get. So these numbers are very different. Before we had like 38 or 36 that were veterans. Now it's only 12. So we did have 12 households that were brand new that have never been here January or February this year. Now, it doesn't mean that they didn't come last year. Remember, this is not a new ever report. It's simply just a new this calendar year. As you can see right here what it's doing. So we have 206 versus the 600 households that came in the duplicated report, but only 206 households in March were brand new that were not veteran, or was not a veteran in the home, and then 12 brand new households in March that did have a veteran in the home. And then of course all the support numbers like your age groups and household total, or all your household totals added up in this case. Well, I hope you guys enjoy this report. Let us know if there's something that you need added to the report or more functionality in the report. In the meantime, enjoy it. We hope it definitely takes the pressure off you and gives you, a lot more freedom to run a lot more reports and be able to really have a much better understanding of what's happening in your pantry. Thank you so much, and you all have a very wonderful day.